My name is Cameron Lamb. I'm an art music composer, originally based in Sydney, but now based in Melbourne. I'm also the artistic director of Camacling, a hybrid art production company. I think my process for composing has changed a lot over time. And primarily due to some of my own limitations. I find now, probably more so than when I was a student actually, I sit down and do sketch work first. So I actually sit down and do structure away from a computer, away from an instrument, away from a keyboard. It is purely theoretical and it's about, okay, what is the flow of this piece? What is, if we want to think about it in terms of film or in terms of theatre, what's the storyboard? What are the key points we need to hit? Where are the high tension points? What's the story we're telling? Where are we responding? And then kind of breaking that down into musical material. So, okay, well, based on that, what do I need to build? What are my themes? What are my building blocks? What possibilities do I have to play with? Let's sit down and mix all of the palette of paint so I know what I'm doing roughly. And then once I've done that, then I can break it down to going, okay, cool. So this 20-minute piece is actually 7 sections between 2 and 4 minutes. And so, okay, if I need to sit down and I've got a couple of hours to write, then I can okay, I can write from beginning to end for this little bit, and I know where it needs to fit into the process. I know what space I need to leave. I know where we're going next. And it also means that if I'm getting stuck on a particular section or it's just not working, I can skip that and still know where that's going to end and begin the next thing. So I can pretend I've already written that bit and continue on. But it is still very much, I do pen and paper for generally a couple of hours, a couple of days, and just sketch and see, what all the possibilities are, get a framework, and then I'll sit down and start doing notation from the beginning to the end of a section, and then do editing afterwards. I am notorious for, I write a piece from start to finish. I don't work very well writing out of order. Like the idea of writing this section, then going back and writing an earlier section just feels so incredibly wrong to me. Because I kind of need that through line, that journey of like, no, I develop as a composer as the material develops, and that sort of flow is really important to me. However, when you're working on far bigger pieces or longer term pieces or projects over a long period of time, that is a luxury you don't often have. So kind of finding workarounds, ways that I can pretend that I'm still writing linearly when I'm not, is good. I do tend to write thematically quite a lot. It's interesting though. Well, I think it's interesting that often the thematic material isn't necessarily the music material. It could be a structural element. It could be something that's underpinning musical motives, but it is never like a sonic idea. A really good example actually would be the contrabass clarinet concerto Yggdrasil I finished up a couple of years ago. All of the themes and melodies in this work are all based on a number pattern derived from some language stuff. But the essence is that all of the motives of that work are all built off that number system. Now, the way those numbers are used, whether it's intervallic, whether they're pitch structures, change depending on the actual expression of that idea. And they're all linked, but they're not linked in a sonic way. They're linked conceptually. I would never expect an audience or even necessarily a performer to sit down and kind of go, oh, it's really clever, he's doing this thing. Like that's not, that's not a given. That this is all the behind the scenes work that, if I'm doing my job properly, that's important to support the things that are the focus. But having that there makes working a lot easier for me and hopefully enhances the piece as well. That sort of thing comes up a lot, especially when I'm playing with text. This idea of kind of trying to find non-musical ideas to link sonic expressions I find really interesting and important, especially if you can get to the point where an audience can kind of feel that link without you having to actually do it in a sound way. So when you can actually get to the point where it's like, oh, those feel familiar. And I don't know why, because they're not actually a direct translation, or they're not just a link to something I've heard before, but it's like, oh, okay, for whatever reason, whenever I hear the word sound, it's always an F. And so regardless of like the melodies that are coming off, or maybe the gradient we have in a phrase, at some point that becomes a very identifiable relationship that you can then start leaning on and subverting as well, which is also very fun.